Before we go on, let me clarify one thing. There should be no doubt that I am a man of God. I am a true believer. I believe there is one true God, one true creator, one true entity from which we all stem. Now, that being said, let us examine this situation that we've got ourselves into. With this conflict, war between Israel and Hamas. Now, many people believe that Hamas has a perfect right to attack Israel because, after all, Israel has been occupying Palestinian land for the past 50 years or so, forcing Palestinians to live under their rule with stormtroopers everywhere on their property. So why wouldn't Hamas or the Palestinians want to free themselves from this bond that Israel has put them in, to the point where a former president said Israel had turned Palestinian land into a prison? All that being said, don't think that I condone in any way, shape, or form the attack on innocent people, men, children, women, animals, in any way for the purpose of some insane war based on greed. And then you have countless numbers of millions of people who were staunch believers in the Bible, who of course believe that Israel is God's chosen land. And thus you have a holy war. Now, far be it from me to judge the Bible, but for those millions and millions of people who follow the Bible without question, you have to ask yourself, first of all, the Bible is a compilation of stories, of books, if you will, that were found, all put together. But of all the books that were found that were designated to be part of the Bible, the Roman Catholic Church took at least 60 some odd books and hid them away so that the general public would never be able to see some of the horrible, gut-wrenching things that were in those books. Things that were done in the name of God and in the name of the Bible that you would just not believe. It's true, though. The Roman Catholic Church quickly took those 60 some odd books and hid them away where people would never be able to see them, so that they would only be controlled by certain aspects of the Bible and not the Bible in its entirety. That's kind of unusual to begin with, right? So Israel and the Palestinians and Hamas are fighting a holy war based on something that was in the Bible. And then if you're a normal, prudent individual, you have to realize that there's so many other things in the Bible too, like...
I like how you call homosexuality an abomination.
I don't say homosexuality is an abomination, Mr. President. The Bible does.
Yes, it does. Leviticus
18:22.
Chapter and verse. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions while I had you here. I'm interested in selling my youngest daughter into slavery as sanctioned in Exodus 21:7. She's a Georgetown sophomore, speaks fluent Italian, always cleared the table when it was her turn. What would a good price for her be? While thinking about that, can I ask another? My chief of staff, Leo McGarry, insists on working on the Sabbath. Exodus 35:2 clearly says he should be put to death. Am I morally obligated to kill him myself, or is it okay to call the police? Here's one that's really important, because we've got a lot of sports fans in this town. Touching the skin of a dead pig makes one unclean, Leviticus 11:7. If they promise to wear gloves, can the Washington Redskins still play football? Can Notre Dame? Can West Point? Does the whole town really have to be together to stone my brother John for planting different crops side by side? Can I burn my mother in a small family gathering for wearing garments made from two different threads? Think about those questions, would you?
I made a video explaining how the attack on Israel was not unprovoked. And I've been bombarded with comments and messages that I'm justifying the violence. What I was doing was explaining how what happened wasn't about anti-Semitism or random terrorism, but a response of resistance after decades of violent Palestinian dehumanization. When Palestinian children are murdered by Israeli forces, they say, well, Hamas was using them as human shields. That's justifying murder. When journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was killed by Israeli forces and people said, well, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, that was justifying murder. When Israeli settlers violently destroyed the town of Huwara and said, well, it happened because brothers were killed, that was justifying violence. Israel has been justifying its violence against Palestinians for 75 years. For me, there is no justification for violence. That's why I speak out as a Jew against the occupation. And if you're against violence, then please join me in standing up against the occupation, the source of all this violence.
Sadly, I have to agree with him. Because look, if somebody came onto your land, made you live under their rule, had soldiers everywhere to make sure you complied, would that be your land? Well, that's exactly what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. And no, I don't condone the Hamas attack at all. Anytime anyone, it doesn't matter who it is, Israel, Hamas, anyone, attacks innocent citizens, men, women, children, animals, based on some greedy war, and in this case, a greedy holy war aimed at obtaining power, money, and control, there is something wrong there. Think about it. I'm Ray. That's the Truth in 5.